The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Communications Hub on Valoran Prime. Taman rushed to his console, his long fingers dancing across the controls. As the main translator for alien messages, he had heard many strange things before, but this message made his blood turn cold. "Help us," came a voice through the speakers. The words were broken and full of fear. They came from nowhere. "Our ships are burning. Our people are dying." Taman adjusted the signal and listened more carefully. The voice belonged to Ambassador Kyung-soo of the Rillan people. The Rillans were peaceful traders who lived on a quiet world far from any conflict. They had no enemies and no reason to fear attack. "The ships are black," Kyung-soo continued. "They do not respond to our calls. They shoot first and ask no questions. We have never seen anything like them. They fight like wild animals, but with the weapons of an advanced race." The message cut to static, then came back stronger. "If anyone receives this, please help us. We are not soldiers. We are not prepared for war. These creatures, they enjoy the killing. They hunt us for sport." Taman saved the message and sent it to all Earth Defense Fleet ships in the area. Within minutes, his screen lit up with responses. The closest ship was the Terra's Vengeance, commanded by Hyunsik. On the bridge of Terra's Vengeance, Hyunsik studied the message with his senior officers. The ship's doctor, Min-hyun, ran the audio through his computers, trying to understand what they were dealing with. "The fear in his voice is real," Min-hyun said. "But more interesting are the background sounds. Listen to this." He played a section where explosions could be heard. "Those are not normal plasma weapons. The energy signature is different," Hyunsik frowned. In his 20 years of service, he had seen many types of weapons. "What makes them different?" "Normal plasma weapons make a clean burn," Min-hyun explained. "These sound like they tear through metal instead of melting it. Whatever is shooting has incredible power." The communications officer, Soo-hyun, spoke up. "Sir, we are getting more messages from the Rillos system. At least 6 different colonies are under attack." Hyunsik felt a chill run down his spine. A single raid was one thing, but a coordinated attack on multiple worlds meant they were dealing with a real military force. "How long to reach the system?" 3 days at maximum speed," replied the navigation officer. "Set course immediately," Hyunsik ordered. "And send word to Earth Command. Tell them we need backup." Back on Earth, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The large room buzzed with worried voices from dozens of different alien species. Representative Jiho sat with the human delegation, reviewing the reports that continued to stream in from Rillos. "The situation is getting worse," said Council Leader Ranak, a tall alien with gray skin. "We have lost contact with 4 Rillan colonies. The attackers are moving through the system like they know exactly where to strike." An alien from the Zenthari Empire raised a tentacle. "Perhaps we should wait and see what develops. The Rillans have no strategic value. Why would anyone waste resources attacking them?" Jiho stood up, anger in his voice. "Strategic value? We are talking about millions of innocent lives." "The human is right," said another council member. "We cannot ignore this attack. But the question is, what can we do? We have no ships in that area except for the human vessel." Admiral Won-ho, Earth's senior military representative, had been quiet during the debate. Now he stood and addressed the council. "We have studied the attack patterns from the messages. This is not random violence. Someone is testing our response time and military capabilities." The room fell silent. If Won-ho was right, then the attack on Rillos was just the beginning. "What evidence do you have?" asked Council Leader Ranak. Won-ho activated a holographic display showing the Rillos system. Red marks showed where attacks had taken place. "Look at the timing. The attackers hit the communication stations first, then the defense platforms, and finally the population centers. This is a textbook military operation." He pointed to different red marks. They also avoided the mining stations and industrial facilities. They want to capture those intact. This is not about destroying the Rillans. This is about taking their territory. Dr. Min-hyun's voice came through the communication system from Terra's Vengeance. "I have more information about our attackers. I have analyzed the energy signatures from the weapons and the engine emissions from their ships." The council listened as Min-hyun explained his findings. "The technology is advanced, but it has an unusual pattern. It is like someone took normal starship technology and made it more aggressive. The weapons use more power than necessary. The engines run hotter than safe limits. Everything is designed for maximum damage, not efficiency." "That sounds like military doctrine from a death world," said Admiral Won-ho quietly. The phrase made everyone uncomfortable. Death worlds were planets so dangerous that only the most aggressive species could survive on them. The galactic community usually avoided contact with such worlds because their inhabitants were often too violent for peaceful relations. Are you suggesting that someone from a death world is leading this attack? Asked Council Leader Ranak. Not just someone, Wanho replied. The coordination and planning show advanced military thinking. Someone taught these death world species how to fight as a unified force. Jiho felt his stomach drop. You think humans are involved? Wanho nodded grimly. Earth is classified as a death world, even if we do not like to admit it. And some of the tactical patterns I see in these attacks, they look familiar. Someone is using human military doctrine. The council chamber erupted in worried voices. If rogue humans were teaching death world species how to wage war, it could threaten the entire galaxy. Most civilized species had never developed the kind of brutal military tactics that came naturally to death world inhabitants. We need more information, declared Council Leader Ranak. Admiral Wanho, can your ship reach Rilos in time to observe these attackers? Terra's vengeance is already on the way, Wanho confirmed. Commander Hunsik will gather intelligence and report back. But if I am right about human involvement, we may need to prepare for something much worse than a simple raid. As the council meeting ended, Jiho approached Admiral Wanho. Do you really think some humans would do this? Attack innocent people? Wanho looked tired and worried. I hope I'm wrong. But Earth's history is full of humans who believe that might makes right. If some of our people decided that the galaxy's peaceful ways are a sign of weakness. He did not finish the sentence. But Jiho understood. Somewhere in the dark space between stars, Terra's vengeance raced toward Rilos, carrying the hopes of peaceful species and the fears of those who remembered what Death World inhabitants could do when they decided to make war. Captain Siwu checked his instruments one more time as the silent hunter dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The stealth frigate was invisible to most sensors, making it perfect for reconnaissance missions. Through the view screen, he could see the Rilos system burning. Take us in slowly, Siwu ordered his pilot. I want to see everything, but I do not want them to see us. Lieutenant Do Yun sat at the communication station listening to all frequencies. Sir, I'm picking up multiple languages. At least 6 different species are talking to each other down there. 6? Siwu was surprised. Most military forces came from a single species or maybe 2 allied races. Are you sure? Positive. And sir, some of these languages are not in our database. These species have never made contact with the galactic community. Specialist Yunwu worked at the sensor station, analyzing the ships in the system. Captain, you need to see this. These vessels are like nothing I've ever encountered. Siwu moved to look at Yunwu's screens. The attacking fleet consisted of dozens of ships, but they were all different designs. Some were huge and heavy like flying fortresses. Others were small and fast, darting between the larger vessels like angry insects. The big ships are built for close combat, Yunwu explained. Look at this armor plating. It is at least 3 times thicker than standard military vessels. And these weapons. They are designed for destroying things up close, not fighting at long range. Siwu studied the display more carefully. What about the small ships? Those are even stranger. They have no shields at all, but their engines are incredibly powerful. They can accelerate faster than our best fighters, and they seem to ignore safety limits entirely. Do-Yun interrupted them. Sirs, I am getting clearer communications now. One of the species calls themselves the Korath. They are talking about ground operations. Put it on speaker, Siwu ordered. A harsh, growling voice filled the bridge. Korath Ground Team 7 to command ship. The Rillan city is secured. Resistance was weak. They fight like prey animals. Another voice, deeper and more mechanical, responded. Understood, Korath. Nephilim Siege Unit requests permission to level the remaining buildings. Negative, Nephilim. Command wants the infrastructure intact. Use precision strikes only. Siwu exchanged worried looks with his officers. The attackers were not just destroying things randomly. They had a plan and they were following it with military precision. Captain, Yunwu called out, I am detecting massive life forms on the planet's surface. Some of these beings are over 4 meters tall. 4 meters? Siwu could hardly believe it. Most galactic species were similar in size to humans or smaller. Are you certain? Yes, sir. And their bone density is incredible. These creatures could probably survive falls that would kill most of us. Do-Hyun spoke up again. Sir, I think I found something important. These communications are using modified human encryption protocols. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Humans were somehow involved in this attack. Can you break the encryption? Siwu asked. I am trying, but it will take time. Wait, I am getting a partial message. Doyun's face went pale as he listened. Sir, they are planning to attack another system next. And they mentioned something called the Iron Covenant. Before Siwu could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Multiple contacts approaching, announced Yunwu. They must have detected us somehow. On the main screen, 3 of the fast attack ships were racing toward them. These vessels moved with a speed and agility that defied physics, turning sharply without slowing down. Take evasive action, Siwu ordered. Do not let them get close. The Silent Hunter was fast, but these ships were faster. They closed the distance quickly, firing weapons that seemed to bend space itself. The shots missed, but barely. Sir, incoming transmission, Dohyun reported. Put it through. A new voice came over the speakers, speaking perfect human standard language. Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in Covenant territory. Surrender now or be destroyed. Siwu felt his blood turn to ice. The voice had a human accent, but there was something wrong with it. It sounded too calm, too cold. This is Commander Kyung-ho of the Korath fleet, the voice continued. You have 10 seconds to power down your engines. Like hell, Siwu muttered. All power to engines. Get us out of here. The Silent Hunter accelerated toward the edge of the system, but the enemy ship stayed close behind. These pilots were incredibly skilled, anticipating every move Siwu's crew made. They are not trying to destroy us, Yunwu observed. Those shots are meant to disable our engines. They want to capture us alive, Siwu realized. They want information. As they approached the edge of the system, something terrible happened on the planet below. A brilliant flash of light appeared over one of the Reelan cities, followed by a growing ball of fire. They are bombing civilian targets, Doyun said in horror. The energy reading from the explosion was massive. In seconds, a city of 3 million people simply vanished. The attackers had used some kind of planet-killing weapon on a defenseless population. Sir, we are in communication range of our fleet, the navigation officer reported. Send everything we have recorded to Admiral Wanho immediately, Siwu ordered. High priority, all frequencies. As the Silent Hunter jumped to faster-than-light speed, escaping their pursuers, Siwu stared at the readings from the destroyed city. Whatever the Iron Covenant was, they had weapons that could kill millions of people in seconds, and they were willing to use them. Back on the Terra's Vengeance, Admiral Wanho received the transmission from the Silent Hunter. As he watched the recordings, his worst fears were confirmed. The tactical patterns, the military organization, even the way they spoke, it all pointed to human involvement. But these were not normal humans. The voice of Commander Kyung-ho had been wrong somehow. It sounded human, but it lacked something essential. There was no emotion, no hesitation, no trace of the compassion that most humans showed even in war. Dr. Min-hyun studied the biological data from the recordings. Admiral, these species are all from Deathworlds, but they have been modified somehow. The Korath, for example, show signs of genetic enhancement. Their bone structure is stronger than it should be naturally. Enhanced how? Wanho asked. I cannot be certain from these readings, but it appears someone has been experimenting on them, making them stronger, faster, more resistant to damage. These are not natural evolution patterns. Wanho felt sick. If humans were taking Deathworld species and making them even more dangerous through genetic modification, the implications were terrifying. Most galactic species had evolved on peaceful worlds. They had no natural defenses against true predators. Sir, Communications Officer Soo-hyun interrupted. We are receiving a priority message from Earth Command. The Galactic Council is demanding answers about human involvement in these attacks. Wanho nodded grimly. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's worst enemy might be humanity itself. And if the Iron Covenant had been building this army for years, preparing and training Deathworld species for war, then peaceful civilization itself was in danger. Set course for Earth, Wanho ordered, and prepare all defensive systems. If there are rogue humans out there with an army of enhanced Deathworld species, we may be their next target. General Jae-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, Human Supremacy, watching the burning remains of Telos Prime through the massive view screen. The planet had once been a beautiful world, covered in crystal cities and floating gardens. Now it was a training ground for his army. Report, Jaehyun said to his aide, Colonel Minjae. The Korath ground exercises are complete, sir. They cleared the remaining city in under 4 hours. The Nephilim siege units performed even better than expected. Jaehyun nodded but felt no satisfaction. Each victory was just another step toward his real goal. The galaxy had shown humanity no mercy when it mattered most. Now it was time to return the favor. Dr. Hyansu approached from the science station. She was one of the few original members of the Iron Covenant who remembered why they had started this war. The latest batch of enhancements is ready for testing, General. The Vex-High pilots are showing remarkable improvement. Show me, Jaehyun ordered. The view screen changed to show the space around Telos Prime. Dozens of small fighter craft moved through an obstacle course of asteroids and debris. The ships moved impossibly fast, turning and spinning in ways that would kill normal pilots. The Vex-High come from an ice world with constant storms, Dr. Hyunsu explained. Their natural reflexes are already superhuman by galactic standards. With our neural enhancements, they can process information 3 times faster than before. Jaehyun watched as one of the fighters performed a maneuver that seemed to break the laws of physics. It spun completely around while moving forward at full speed, then immediately changed direction without slowing down. What about their survival rate? He asked. Much improved. The new genetic modifications allow them to survive in hard vacuum for up to 30 minutes. They can also withstand acceleration forces that would crush most species. Colonel Minjae pulled up another display. Sir, the Korath modifications are showing similar success. Their regeneration rate has increased by 400%. They can regrow lost limbs in less than 6 hours. Jaehyun studied the data with cold satisfaction. 20 years ago, when his daughter Sumin had died during the Zephyrian attacks, the Galactic Council had done nothing. They had sent diplomats and made speeches while human colonies burned. They had treated human lives as acceptable losses in their quest for peace. That was when Jaehyun understood the truth. The galaxy was ruled by prey species who had forgotten what real predators could do. They lived in comfort and safety because they had never faced a true threat. But predators still existed in the dark spaces between stars, and Jaehyun had found them. The first contact had been with the Korath. Their homeworld was a nightmare of active volcanoes and crushing gravity. The Korath had evolved thick shells and incredible strength just to survive their daily lives. When Jaehyun's exploration ships found them, they were locked in constant warfare between different tribes. Jaehyun had offered them something better: unity under human leadership and the technology to become even stronger. The Korath had accepted eagerly. They understood that might made right. After the Korath came the Vex-High from their frozen storm world, then the massive Nephilim from a planet where every creature was either predator or prey. Each species had brought their own skills and their own hunger for conquest. General, Dr. Hyansu said, interrupting his thoughts, we are receiving reports that Earth Defense Fleet ships are mobilizing. They may be preparing for a major operation. Let them come, Jaehyun replied. Earth's military still thinks in terms of civilized warfare. They follow rules and try to minimize casualties. We have no such limitations. Commander Sung-hoon of the Nephilim appeared on the communication screen. His species stood 4 meters tall and had evolved for pure combat. In their natural state, they were already living weapons. With human enhancements, they had become unstoppable. General Jaehyun, Sung-hoon's voice rumbled through the bridge speakers. My forces request permission to attack the refugee ships fleeing Rilos. They carry military intelligence, Jaehyun considered this. The refugees were certainly carrying information about the Iron Covenant's capabilities, but they were also mostly civilians. Families with children who had never hurt anyone. Negative, he decided. Focus on military targets only. Sung-hoon's massive head tilted in confusion. Sir, these refugees will report our strength to Earth forces. It would be tactically wise to eliminate them. I said no, Commander. We are not monsters. We fight for human supremacy, not for the joy of killing innocents. After ending the communication, Colonel Minjae approached Jaehyun privately. Sir, with respect, Commander Sung-hoon has a point. The refugees represent a security risk. Jaehyun turned to stare at his old friend. Minjae had been with him since the beginning, had shared his grief over Sumin's death. But lately, Jaehyun noticed that many of his human officers were becoming harder, colder. The constant warfare was changing them. We began this crusade to protect humanity, Jaehyun said firmly. If we become the kind of monsters who murder refugee children, Then we have already lost everything that makes us worth protecting. Min-jae nodded, but Jae-hyun could see doubt in his eyes. The Iron Covenant had started as a way to make humanity strong enough to survive in a hostile galaxy. But war had its own logic, and that logic was slowly consuming everyone involved. Dr. Hyun-soo spoke up from her station. General, I am detecting Earth Defense Fleet vessels at the edge of sensor range. It appears to be a reconnaissance force. How many ships? 3, sir. Small escorts and 1 medium cruiser. They are maintaining distance and appear to be observing our operations. Jae-hyun smiled coldly. Earth Command was finally paying attention. For too long they had ignored the Iron Covenant, treating it as a minor rebellion. Now they would learn what 20 years of preparation could accomplish. Order all fleet units to defensive positions, he commanded. But do not engage unless they attack first. I want Earth Command to see exactly what we have built here. As the Iron Covenant fleet moved into formation, Jae-hyun thought about the message he would soon send to the Galactic Council. They had ignored humanity's suffering for decades, treating humans as expendable allies in their comfortable peace. Now they would face the consequences of that decision. The Death World species under his command represented the galaxy's nightmare scenario, predators with advanced technology and human tactical knowledge. Every civilized species had evolved in safe environments, protected from real danger. They had no idea how to fight enemies who viewed warfare as a natural way of life. Sir, communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the Earth vessels. They are requesting a dialogue. Ignore them, Jae-hyun ordered. When Earth Command is ready to surrender unconditionally, then we will talk. Until then, let them watch and learn what true strength looks like. Through the view screen, Telos Prime continued to burn. Soon every world in the galaxy would learn the same lesson that the Rillans had learned. Mercy was a luxury that only the strong could afford, and strength belonged to those willing to take it. Admiral Wonho stood before the largest gathering of Earth's military leaders in 50 years. The orbital fortress Terra Sanctum floated high above Earth, its conference rooms filled with generals, admirals, and scientists from across human space. Everyone knew why they were here, but no one wanted to be the first to say it out loud. The situation is worse than we initially thought, Wonho began, activating the holographic display at the center of the room. The Iron Covenant has been building their forces for at least 20 years. They have 7 different Death World species under their command, all enhanced with human technology. General Seo-jun, Earth's top ground forces commander, studied the tactical displays with growing concern. These modifications go beyond anything we thought possible. The Korath can regenerate lost limbs faster than our medical technology can heal wounds. The Vexai can survive in space without protection. What kind of science creates changes like this? Dr. Yoongi, head of the Xenological Warfare Division, answered from his seat near the back of the room. Illegal science. The genetic modifications I am seeing in these reports would require extensive human experimentation. These Death World species have been turned into living weapons. Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung leaned forward. We need to understand their capabilities before we can plan any response. What do we know about each species? The holographic display changed to show detailed information about the Covenant's forces. Admiral Wonho pointed to each species in turn. The Korath are their heavy assault troops. They evolved on a high-gravity world with active volcanoes. Their natural armor can stop most small arms fire, and with enhancements they can survive direct hits from plasma cannons. They also regenerate damage so quickly that conventional tactics are useless against them. Marshal Hoseok, who commanded Earth's Special Forces, whistled low. How do you kill something that can regrow body parts? You do not, Dr. Yoongi replied grimly. You have to stop them from fighting without destroying them completely. But that requires weapons we do not currently have. Wonho continued his briefing. The Vexai serve as their fighter pilots and scouts. They come from an ice world with constant storms, so their reflexes are naturally faster than most species. The enhancements make them even faster. Our best pilots cannot match their reaction times. What about their larger units? Asked General Seo-jun. The Nephilim are their siege specialists. They stand 4 meters tall and have been engineered for pure combat. A single Nephilim can take on an entire squad of human marines and win. They also interface directly with their weapon systems, making them incredibly accurate. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. They were facing an enemy that had taken naturally dangerous species and made them even deadlier. through science that Earth's ethics laws would never permit. Commander. Namjoon stepped forward from his position near the wall. He had spent months infiltrating Covenant territory, gathering intelligence at great personal risk. There is something else you need to know. The human officers in the Iron Covenant are not the same people they used to be. What do you mean? Wonho asked. I observed their behavior for weeks. They show no emotion during combat. They make tactical decisions that cost thousands of lives without any hesitation. It is like they have had their humanity surgically removed. Dr. Yoongi spoke up. That could be psychological conditioning or it could be chemical modification. Either way, we cannot count on appealing to their human nature. They have deliberately eliminated that part of themselves. Marshal Hoseok stood up. So what do we do? Traditional military doctrine is designed for fighting other civilized species. These Deathworld creatures fight like wild animals but with advanced weapons and human tactical knowledge. General Seojin nodded agreement. Our soldiers are trained to minimize casualties and follow rules of engagement. The enemy follows no rules and sees mercy as weakness. Then maybe it is time we remembered our own nature. Dr. Yoongi said quietly. The room turned to look at him. Dr. Yoongi was known for his peaceful demeanor and scientific approach to problems. Hearing him suggest violence was surprising. Explain, Admiral Wonho ordered. Dr. Yoongi activated his own holographic display, showing Earth from space. The Iron Covenant thinks they understand what it means to be from a death world. But they have forgotten something important about Earth and humanity. The display zoomed in to show Earth's surface with its blue oceans and green continents. It looked peaceful and beautiful. Nothing like the volcanic hell of the Korath homeworld or the frozen storms of the Vexhai planet. Earth does not look like a death world, Dr. Yoongi continued, but it produced the only species in the galaxy that learned to cooperate with other apex predators, instead of destroying them. Humans tamed wolves and turned them into dogs. We learned to work with horses, dolphins, and dozens of other dangerous species. He paused to let this sink in. The Covenant's Deathworld allies fight like predators because that is all they know. But humans evolved beyond that. We learned that the strongest predator is the one that can convince others to fight alongside it, instead of against it. Captain Seok-jin, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, suddenly spoke up. The doctor is right. I have been working with the Althean Confederacy, trying to build support for our cause. Most galactic species are terrified of the Iron Covenant, but they are also terrified of humanity in general. They see us as another Deathworld species that might turn violent. That fear could work in our favor, Marshal Hoseok realized. If we can show other species that humans choose cooperation over domination, we can build an alliance against the Covenant. Fleet Admiral Taehyung was studying the tactical information. But first we need to survive their attacks. These enhanced Deathworld species are beyond anything our current military can handle. Colonel Jimin, who commanded Earth's elite marine units, had been listening carefully to the discussion. What if we train our forces differently? Not to fight like civilized soldiers, but to fight like Earth's apex predators did before we became civilized. You mean revert to barbarism? General Seojin asked with concern. Not barbarism, Colonel Jimin corrected. Strategy. Earth's predators survived by being smarter than their prey, not just stronger. We need to outthink these Deathworld species, not outmuscle them. Dr. Yoongi nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. The Covenant has made their allies stronger and faster, but they have not made them smarter. They still think like predators, which means they are predictable. Admiral Wonho considered all the information presented. The Iron Covenant had superior weapons, enhanced soldiers, and 20 years of preparation. But they also had weaknesses that could be exploited by an enemy that understood how predators thought. Here is what we are going to do, Wonho decided. Captain Seokjin will continue building our diplomatic alliance with other galactic species. We need them to understand that humanity is fighting against the kind of Deathworld aggression they fear, not embracing it. He turned to Colonel Jimin. You will begin training selected units in what you call apex predator tactics. But remember, we are not trying to become monsters. We are trying to defeat monsters. Dr. Yoongi, I want you to develop weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter enhanced Deathworld species. Think like a scientist, but also think like a predator. Finally, he addressed the whole room. Everyone needs to understand that this war is about more than just defeating the Iron Covenant. We are fighting to prove that intelligent species can evolve beyond pure predation. If we win by becoming like our enemies, then we have already lost. As the meeting ended and the officers began to disperse, Admiral Wanho stared out at Earth through the conference room's large windows. Somewhere out there, the Iron Covenant was preparing for their next attack. But Earth was preparing too, and humanity had advantages that no other species in the galaxy possessed. The question was whether those advantages would be enough when the real fighting began. Kepler Station hung in space like a giant metal flower, its construction arms stretching out in all directions. The massive orbital shipyard had been working around the clock for weeks, building transport ships to evacuate civilians from worlds threatened by the Iron Covenant. Admiral Wanho knew it would be a target, but he also knew it was too important to abandon. Fleet positions confirmed, reported Captain Saiwu from the bridge of his carrier, Indomitable. Third Fleet is in defensive formation around the station. All fighter squadrons are ready for launch. Wanho studied the tactical display from his command ship. 43 Earth Defense Fleet vessels surrounded Kepler Station, from massive battleships to small escort frigates. It was an impressive force by galactic standards, but he wondered if it would be enough against the Iron Covenant's enhanced Deathworld warriors. "Sir," Communications Officer Soo-hyun announced, "long-range sensors are detecting the Covenant fleet. They are still 6 hours out, but the energy signatures match what we saw at Rilos." "How many ships?" Wanho asked. "At least 60 confirmed contacts, sir. Possibly more hiding behind the larger vessels." Wanho felt his stomach tighten. The Iron Covenant outnumbered them, had superior individual soldiers and 20 years of preparation. But Earth's fleet had something the enemy lacked: the desperate motivation of people fighting to protect their homes. On Kepler Station itself, Commander Jungkook oversaw the final evacuation of non-essential personnel. The station's massive construction bays were still full of half-built refugee ships, but there was no time to finish them. In a few hours, this place would become a battlefield. "Sir," one of his Marines reported, "we have completed the defensive preparations. All critical systems have backup power, and we have established firing positions throughout the station." Jungkook nodded. "What about the civilians who could not evacuate?" "Approximately 12,000 people are still on board, mostly essential workers. They are in the protected areas of the central core. 12,000 innocent lives depending on them to keep the station safe." Jungkook had fought in border skirmishes before, but never anything like this. The reports from Rilos made it clear that the Iron Covenant showed no mercy to non-combatants. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Siwoo received updates from his fighter squadrons. "All pilots report ready," announced his flight commander. "But sir, I have to ask, how do we fight enemies that can survive in vacuum and regenerate from wounds that would kill us?" It was a good question. Dr. Yoongi's research teams had developed some new weapons, but they had not been tested in real combat. "Remember your training," Siwoo replied. "We fight smarter, not harder. Use the station's structure as cover, coordinate your attacks, and do not engage in single combat with Vex-High fighters." The Iron Covenant fleet appeared at the edge of the system like a swarm of angry hornets. Their ships moved in formations that seemed chaotic but were actually carefully planned. The largest vessels, crewed by Nephilim, advanced slowly while the smaller Vex-High fighters spread out to surround the human defenses. "Incoming transmission," Soo-hyun reported. "Put it through," Wanho ordered. General Jae-hyun's voice filled the bridge, cold and emotionless. "Admiral Wanho, you are defending a military target that supports the oppression of humanity. Surrender the station and withdraw your fleet or face the consequences. This station is building ships to save civilian refugees," Wanho replied. "If you attack it, you are the one oppressing innocent people." "Innocence is a luxury that weak species can afford," Jae-hyun responded. "Humanity learned long ago that survival requires strength. You have forgotten that lesson, but we will remind you." The transmission ended, and immediately the Covenant fleet began its attack. The Vex-High fighters moved first, accelerating to impossible speeds and diving toward the human defensive line. Their movements were so fast that human pilots could barely track them. "All squadrons, engage at will," Captain Siwoo ordered. "Remember, these pilots can survive crashes that would kill us, so aim for their engines, not their cockpits." The space around Kepler Station erupted in weapons fire. Human fighters used careful coordination and superior numbers to compensate for their slower reflexes. Where one human pilot could not match a Vex-High, 3 working together could trap and destroy them. But the Vex-High were learning quickly. They began using kamikaze tactics, ramming human ships when their own vessels were damaged. Their ability to survive in vacuum meant that destroying their fighter did not necessarily kill the pilot. "Sir," Siwoo's tactical officer reported, "we are losing fighters faster than projected. The enemy pilots are more reckless than our models predicted." Before Siwoo could respond, alarms began ringing throughout his ship. "Korath boarding craft approaching," announced the defense coordinator. "They are using some kind of stealth technology." Through the view screen, Siwoo could see small dark ships that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The Korath boarding craft moved slowly compared to the Vex-High fighters, but they were nearly invisible to sensors. On Kepler Station, Commander Jungkook felt the impact as the first Korath boarding craft attached to the station's hull. "All Marine units to defensive positions," he ordered. "Remember, aim for the joints in their armor and do not let them close to melee range." The first Korath warriors to breach the station's hull were like living tanks. Their enhanced shells could stop rifle fire, and their regeneration abilities meant that wounds that would disable a human only slowed them down. But they were also slow and predictable. Jungkook's Marines used the station's corridors to their advantage, setting up crossfires and falling back through prepared defensive positions. When the Korath tried to advance, they found themselves caught in killing zones with no cover. "Use the gravity generators," Jungkook ordered. "Drop sections to zero gravity when they advance, then restore it when they are off balance." The tactic worked. Korath warriors who were unstoppable in normal gravity became helpless when suddenly weightless. Human Marines, trained for zero-gravity combat, could maneuver around them and attack from unexpected angles. But the real threat came from the Nephilim siege ships. These massive vessels approached Kepler Station slowly, their 4-meter-tall crews preparing to cut through the station's armor with weapons designed for destroying fortifications. "Dr. Min-hyun," Admiral Wonho called to his science officer. "Any progress on countering their enhancements?" "Yes, sir," Min-hyun replied excitedly. "I have been analyzing the medical data from their communications. The genetic modifications require constant chemical maintenance. If we can disrupt their medical systems, do it," Wonho ordered. Lieutenant Do-yun, working frantically at his console, managed to penetrate the Covenant fleet's medical network. "I am in their system," he announced. "Uploading the virus now." Across the Iron Covenant fleet, medical systems began failing. The enhanced Deathworld species found their modifications turning against them. Korath warriors who had been regenerating wounds suddenly began suffering organ failure. Vex-High pilots lost their enhanced reflexes and crashed into asteroids. Even some of the mighty Nephilim began collapsing. As their enhanced biology destabilized, General Jae-hyun watched his perfect soldiers dying from their own enhancements and felt something he had not experienced in years: doubt. His grand plan to make Deathworld species into unstoppable warriors had a fatal flaw that the enemy had discovered and exploited. "Sir," Colonel Minjae reported, "we are losing effectiveness across all units. The enhancement failures are spreading." "Deploy the planet killers," Jae-hyun ordered coldly. "If we cannot capture the station, we will destroy it and everything around it." 3 massive missiles launched from the Covenant flagship, each one carrying enough destructive power to crack a planet's crust. They moved slowly but were heavily armored and shielded against defensive fire. Admiral Wonho faced an impossible choice. He could destroy the missiles with concentrated fire from his entire fleet, but that would leave Kepler Station defenseless against the remaining Covenant forces. Or he could protect the station and let the planet killers reach their targets in nearby systems, killing billions of innocent people. "All ships," Wonho transmitted on a wide frequency, "concentrate fire on the planet killer missiles. We cannot let them reach populated worlds." Captain Siwoo understood what this meant. "Sir, that will leave the station undefended." "I know," Wonho replied grimly, "but we cannot sacrifice billions to save thousands." As Earth's fleet turned to engage the planet killers, the remaining Covenant forces pressed their attack on Kepler Station. Commander Jungkook and his Marines found themselves facing overwhelming odds as more Korath boarding parties arrived. "Sir," one of his Marines reported, "they are bringing up heavy weapons. We cannot hold these positions much longer." Jungkook looked around at his exhausted troops. They had fought bravely, but they were only human. "All units fall back to the central core. We will make our final stand protecting the civilians." As the human defenses collapsed, General Jae-hyun achieved his tactical victory. But watching Kepler Station burn, He realized that he had also revealed the weakness in his enhanced warriors. The next battle would be different, and Earth's forces would be ready for them. The Battle of Kepler Station was over, but the war for humanity's soul was just beginning.